So both of your characters kind of have dark sides. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the attraction to the roles, is that they both had pasts, and that they were, a lot of these procedural shows that you don't really know much about the characters, and I think that the great thing about this show is that, there's a lot of meat on the bone, and certainly, Beth's character has a mystery to her character, and I think that Jack certainly does too, and the unraveling and the unveiling of that through hopefully many seasons, we'll get to know them a lot more.
How much are we going to learn about your two characters? Obviously, you're locking up, and then you have the confrontation with the woman at the end of the episode, and that sort of just, those are little seeds planted. But how much of that are we going to get outside of the case stuff this season?
We're going to get a lot of it, actually. I mean, because of who Kevin is, and the way he develops characters, and that he's more character driven than a lot of creators. I think that was a draw for both of us, that Kevin's development of these two was really going to head the show in a certain direction. And certainly there'll be a case every week. But I think, a lot of times, even when I'm reading the scripts, I care about the cases, but I truly am curious about them. Their characters, their histories, where they're going, why they're where they are, how they got there. That to me has been the most interesting part of the show, to be honest.
Well, there are rough waters in the partnership at first. What can you tease about how their dynamic has played out and what you've filmed so far?
At first, I think it's going to be rough waters.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 6 years of rough waters.
In terms of Beth, the thing that I like about her is that it's not a scenario in which she's sort of being coy or being cute or being mean to him or, putting him off because she's playing a game. She means it. She actually means it. She cares about the job first. And once he proves himself, I think the relationship will change. But I don't think it'll change until then, because she's all about the job. And it's not a game to her. It's not like, oh, well, I'm not going to be nice to you, and then maybe you'll do this, and I'll do that. And it really isn't. She is who she is, and she knows who she is. And so because that's not the game, I think it becomes more interesting, and sort of more interesting for him.
Yeah, I think he likes the abuse.
The character killing.
Oh,
So this is a show that kind of gets inside your head. Certainly got into mine after I watched the pilot. Looking at things, checking my Twitter accounts and stuff. How has the show kind of gotten into your heads, just off screen?
Yeah, no, it does. It really does, because it's it's such a subject matter that's out in the world. And more it feels like, I think that's why the show is so timely, because you're hearing more about stalkings, not just with celebrities, obviously, but I think with regular people, it seems to be more pervasive than it's ever been. So, you look in your rearview mirror a little bit more when you're driving home.
Mm-hmm. Social media-wise, has it had any sort of effect on what you put out there, or were you always sort of little?
Well, I know Maggie's very active.
I'm the worst social media person on the planet, so for me, you have to it's like blood from a stone getting me to post anything. Yeah. So I don't have to worry about scaling back the social media. But what I do hope, though, it's a good point, though, what I do hope, you being a man is a little different.
Yeah,
I think the safety thing, just in general.
Yeah.
The safety issue in terms of young women and girls and people who are on social media, to a fault these days. It is a show that I hope makes them think twice about what they're putting out there. That's a big one for me. I think that we're not protecting ourselves the way that we should, and I think that we are giving too much information. And because of our access to each other, we say in the pilot that stalkings has increased 30% in the last decade with the advent of all of these sites. So. I'm hoping that it does. It's not just sort of look over your shoulder thing. Be careful what you put out there, and I'm hoping that will affect some, especially women.
When Jack comes into the unit, he's sort of all guns blazing. This is how I run the show. How do you see? What are his ambitions for being in the TAU? Where do you sort of think he's heading?
Well, I think he relocates. He gets out of New York because he really wants to have a relationship with his son. So he's doing everything he can to kind of maneuver that. Manipulate it in many ways. So, he's definitely calculated. He knows what he's doing, and he knows, this was the right unit for him to be in. And maybe he thought obviously he thought he was never going to run into this. So he was just like,
so
oh
lucky.
my God, I know. He thought it would be a little bit easier. You know, he wasn't ready.
And then can you talk a little bit about, like, it's obvious that Beth doesn't like Jack, but sort of like, what are her fears about him coming into her unit and being on her team that she doesn't?
You know, there's reasons that we're going to get into sort of later in the show about why she takes her job so seriously and why it's so personal to her. So somebody coming into a unit, there's also something I can't say about why he's in the unit and, you know, all sorts of, that'll be revealed. And so there's a lot, which I kind of love that Beth knows that the audience doesn't know and none of them know. And then, you know, she slowly, when she feels like letting people in on, you know, what she knows, she does. But the assumption is that she kind of already knows everything about him. And so, you know, there's things he's done that are forgivable, and there's things he's done that are kind of unforgivable, you know, depending on how you look at it. And she's very, very cautious of him. I mean, he's been an irresponsible man. He comes to the unit. Her central focus is to do her job and do it well. So if he thinks he's coming into a unit to fool around and sleep with women, flirt around, and, you know what I mean, do the things that he did back in New York, he's got another thing coming in her unit. It's not going to happen. It's too serious to her. It's too personal to her.